Hi everybody, how you doing? Alright, well, whatever you're up to today, wherever you are, all across the world, I hope life is treating you well and that you're safe and sound, that your loved ones are all in good health and spirits. Yet again, it's another day of no work, just a little bit of personal stuff. I'm a field engineer by day. I normally travel around the north of England fixing computers, but I've not been going anywhere for the last few days, so working from home, a lot of free time, and something I've wanted to do for ages actually is to get a bit more YouTube content. It's funny, a lot of the most creative people that I've been speaking to are really trying to see something positive in all this time. Musicians are starting to make music again, writers are writing, photographers are taking photos. So, you know, we've got to look on the bright side. There's an awful lot of creativity going on at the moment. Anyway, you didn't come here for my polemic on the state of the world. Well, maybe you did. I can give you a polemic on the state of music in 1989, if that's any good to you. Because 89 is where we're at right now. Very end of 89, the dying months of the 80s. And the 90s are breathing down the neck. And it's always a funny time at the end of a decade. Because you're still part of that decade, but you're well aware that the door's about to close on it. And a lot of people are kind of looking ahead already. Some people are sort of like still looking past. And this brings us all very nicely to Tears for Fears. With Sowing Seeds of Love, which is the first song on Now 16. And I'm just trying to work out, is this the first Tears for Fears song ever? They are essentially an early to mid-80s band who came back hugely with this song, and very, very differently. And talking of looking to the future and the past, what they've done so well on this is they've simultaneously looked back to the past with the obvious kind of Beatles, psychedelic, I Am the Walrus sort of thing, but also looking ahead to the 90s and to particularly the imminent kind of 1990 nouveau hippie thing that was coming out. Sonically, this is an absolute delight, really. There's all sorts going on. It's a long, long song. It's very, very kind of experimental. And for a first song on a Now album, it's really, really different from anything else. Certainly different from anything they'd done themselves before. Different from anything else going on at the time. It's a wonderful, wonderful record. Really, really inventive. Let's just see how it's doing on the stats. 20 million, that's pretty good. And I've heard it on very recently, actually, some hip-hop tune. I forget who it was, but it used the kind of piano loop almost. So it's still a relevant song. Still sounds good. Great way to kick off Now 16. Nice one, guys. This is followed by Belinda and Belinda Carlisle, Leave the Light On. Not very environmentally friendly, Belinda, is it, really? To be turning lights off. Actually, it's a good song. It's another one like Heaven is a Place on Earth. Very much Belinda Carlisle playbook. Fast, up-tempo, lightly rocky, power pop, I guess you'd call it, with great big strong chorus. Belinda was still having hits. She'd had loads and loads over the late 80s, early 90s. This is followed by Drama by Erasure. They did like putting exclamation marks at the end of their single names. I guess they thought it made it sound a bit more exciting. Drama, I don't know, Erasure could alternate between doing some really good pop songs and then some stuff that was really, really pretty dire. Drama, it's okay, it's just not really got a proper tune. And in these days, you don't need a tune, but you need something else. If you're going to have sort of singing and a kind of what's supposedly a song structure, verses and choruses and stuff, at least make them good. Otherwise, do away with them altogether. What you don't want is this sort of nasal whine. I don't know. I don't hate on Erasure because Vince Clarke is a legend of synths. But this is very, very third division. Okay, Debbie Harry's back, although it's Deborah Harry this time. Let's stick this one on. And I Want That Man. Now, Debbie Harry, or Deborah, as we should say, was certainly able to transition throughout the decades. She'd had a vaguely successful 80s, maybe not as successful as the 70s. And then in the 90s, at the very end of the 90s, Blondie came back again with Maria and stuff. This was one of her biggest solo songs. And it was actually written and produced by a couple of guys from the Thompson Twins, Tom Bailey and Alana Curry. So although the Thompson Twins themselves had stopped having hits by this point, obviously those guys are still very active. Doesn't sound like the Thompson Twins at all. It's very mid-80s American stuff. Pretty good song. I don't think it's as good as French Kissing in the USA by a mile. But it's perfectly acceptable. It's got a bit of energy to it. Right, we come up with another one, a really, really good song now. Sydney Youngblood and If Only I Could. He had a few hits. This is probably his biggest. It's another one that could be filed under Deep House. It uses the beat from Raise and Break for Love. And it's a similar sort of vibe, really. Got a deep soul vocal, nice, good, kind of vaguely hippie lyrics. Again, I was saying it started off really with the Second Summer of Love on the last album, but lyrically now we're getting a lot of songs that are going a bit more kind of new agey. The beginnings of the modern green movement. I think 1989, for me personally, was probably the first year I heard about global warming, climate change, which is a whole other debate in itself. But in terms of culture, because this is about culture rather than science and politics, I think 1989 was the first year in which global warming started to have a kind of cultural impact on people, and therefore a lot of songs were kind of getting a bit eco and stuff. Not Name and Number by Curiosity Killed the Cat. There was a few actually. I've just noticed how many old bands were coming back here for another shot. Maybe they realised that the 90s were coming in and this could be their last real bite of the apple. Although I think Curiosity had a couple of 90s hits. Now, the thing most famous about this song is actually De La Soul, of all people, would go on to repurpose the chorus. And it's the De La Soul one that's probably way more known than this. This is obviously great chorus. So credit to them for that. It's pretty much all I can remember about the song. It's in that kind of rare groove style that they've been doing for a couple of years. So it's still kind of 80s, but it's also transitioning to that 90s kind of shuffle beat. So yeah, very 89, I suppose. To be honest, everything other than the chorus of this song's a bit whack. This is followed by You Keep It All In by The Beautiful South. This is their second single. And again, it's a pretty nice song. Slightly more up-tempo, slightly, than Song for Whoever, but still very gentle. The instrumentation is very light. When you're talking about things like Roxette in the last one and Paula Abdul, or the great big heavy crashing snares, Beautiful South are almost totally the opposite. But should we stick it on? A bit nicer than this. This is actually a bit shrill. You Keep It All In. And if I'm not mistaken, this one was a duet between Paul and what's her name? Brianna Corrigan. That's not it. It's this. So yeah, Beautiful South, You Keep It All In. Yeah, it's quite nice. This is followed by Sweet Surrender by Wet Wet Wet. Typical Wet 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 song, like all the others. Well, not all the others. They started off with some fast ones, but they've done basically loads and loads of ballads. It was just a go-to option for them, and that was just another example. Followed by Breakthrough by Queen, another great Queen song. Most Queen songs do have at least something good about them. Breakthrough had that famous video of them on the train, I think. And it's just a sort of classic up-tempo, kind of not out-and-out rocky, synthy rock, great late 80s Queen song. Followed by Tina Turner. Here's one that's probably had 1 million views. You're Simply the Best. This was one of Tina's biggest songs throughout the 80s. I just want to see how many views it's had. And it's a sort of classic, strutting, sporty kind of Champions anthem. Check out David Brent in The Office doing his motivational speech. Yeah, 46 million views. Tina, Simply the Best. Which is followed by Transvision Vamp again, Born to Be Sold. Probably their weakest song so far. It's okay. It doesn't really rock in the same way that the others did. And it's a kind of list of celebrities. There were lots of songs that were lists of famous people coming in at this time. And that's pretty much all the lyrics are, just a list of famous people, and she's sort of trying to stick herself up with people like Elvis and Bob Dylan. Yeah, right, Wendy. Talking of Wendy's, I don't know if that was deliberate, but they've got Wendy and Lisa next with Waterfall. I don't really remember it. I remember being in Prince's group, Revolution, and I remember the song being pretty Prince-like, a kind of Prince B-side. Probably perfectly good, but not particularly memorable. Followed up by Kate Bush. She's back again with The Sensual World. Let's stick this one on, because I don't really remember it. Nowhere near as big as, say, Running Up That Hill or Wuthering Heights. But always good to have Kate Bush on the charts. So have you noticed on this now, for one that's coming up to the 90s, there's an awful lot of early 80s acts, or even 70s, still going around. Yeah, very Kate Bush. I wouldn't say it's a particularly standout song, but pretty good. Reminds me a bit of the Experiment 4 one. This is followed by Fine Young Cannibals and I'm Not the Man I Used to Be. Their third, I think, single of the year. Probably their most successful year ever. And it's got a James Brown breakbeat in a kind of concession to 90s music. And it's a song about alcoholism. So, in fact, it's one of their better songs, yeah. It's certainly got way more substance to it, and stuff like She Drives Me Crazy. We're followed by Sugarbox, then Jericho, and let's put these two together, Living in a Box, Room in Your Heart. They're both kind of more or less the same, really, just sort of these 80s fans. Final Reel, Throw the Dice. Richard Marx, Right Here Waiting. Nowhere near as good as the song he'd have a few years later called Hazard. Very drippy ballad, big summer hit, kind of sub Bryan Adams really. Not particularly a big fan of it, but I kind of like Richard Marx. I certainly like Hazard, but that ends. I know. I'm trying to think. One more on this side, or was it on the next side? Because I'm looking at the listings for CD. I'm not saying which is which, but it's Milli Vanilli, Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You. And this was their ballad after 2 or 3 more fast songs. It's not bad. It's a bit Euro, a bit cheesy, really. It's certainly not played anymore after the scandal with the tape miming and stuff. So really nothing to say about that. Right, onwards and upwards. I'm just looking at this track listing, and there's a song on here which was not on the vinyl. Lil Louis, French Kiss, that was not on the record. What was on instead of that then? Anyway, we haven't got there yet. We start with Street Tough, the Rebel MC. And we talked about this one last time because I did Just Keep Rocking. This one, very much a sound alike. Quite sort of commercial, really. A lot of parodies. I think Steve Wright used to do like joke versions of it. Is he a Cockney? No, he's a brat. That was one of the lyrics and stuff. But yeah, it was a massive hit at the very end of '89. And as I said in the last video, I think Rebel MC's not really given the acclaim maybe owed to him of spearheading British MCs. So fair play to him. Maybe about 10 years before his real time. Now this was followed by, if I can find it, because I got a bit confused. Doesn't take a lot. This is followed by On Our Own by Bobby Brown, and this is a high level Bobby Brown tune. It's from Ghostbusters. It's got that really famous rap, Ghostbusters 2, should I say, swing beat kind of thing, good catchy chorus, and yeah, really good song. Gonna follow that up with another classic, I think, and I'm interested to see how many views it's had. And I guess you'd call this one another paradigm shifting song. It's certainly different to anything else we've had. No resemblance to anything else that's ever been on the Now. Wow. This is unbelievable amount of views. 164 million views. You know, I've been seeing stuff with 21 million views is good. 164 million views. Absolutely unbelievable. The first comment, if I started a country, this would be the national anthem. Side effects may include nausea, headache and diarrhea. That's the video. Who is watching this while the coronavirus is going on? And that's had 173 likes. Well, I mean, that's the reason I'm doing this video, to be honest, is things like that. The fact that you might be sitting at home scared shitless about the coronavirus and you're watching a Technotronic video and 173 people are agreeing with you. You know, this is why this stuff is so important and it's why it's so relevant. This stuff really helps humanity in times of hardship and in times of isolation. Stuff like this, really, it has a spiritual good. And I can't believe that I'm finding spirituality in a Technotronic video. It's the human connection. It's the fact that so many people see something and hear something in this, and it unites us. God really is a DJ. Why this though? Pump up the jam. Pump up the loo roll might be more handy in these times. Well, if you can't hear why this is popular, then you've probably got a tin ear. It's just a new kind of beat. I suppose it's followed on a bit from Inner City with the techno sound, but it's way hard. It's Euro. It's not cheesy Euro. It's heavy Euro. I think they're Italian, so obviously I really hope they're okay if they're still in Italy. Now, in the video, the girl miming wasn't the girl who actually sang it, who was called Yarkid K. This was introduced as featuring Felly, but all Felly did was jump around a bit and moan, apparently. Anyway, 170 million. It's just a classic dance tune, and it's obviously still really, really popular. Now, it says here that the next song was Lil Louis, French Kiss, which is a really good song, and probably better than what was on the actual original album. But it sure as hell wasn't on the vinyl version that I had. I haven't got it with me, unfortunately, so I'm going to just try and look on the fly and see what actually was after this. Anything else I can say about this? Yeah, they had a few other hits, almost very similar, but not quite as good. Get Up. They had a guy called MC Eric, not Eric B. He was on it. Right, here we go. This is the original 89 vinyl on Discogs. That says Adiva, I Thank You next. And that certainly rings a bell. That was Adiva's third song. Still pretty good song. Nowhere near as good as Respect. More Euro dance in style. But still pretty good. Her voice is always interesting. So well worth a listen. It'll still get you dancing probably, but maybe a bit more dated. Next up, we've got D-Mob again, and the first introduction of Kathy Dennis. This was Come On and Get My Love, and this was their most sort of song-based song, if you like. No rapping or acid, just a great vocal performance from Kathy Dennis, who'd go on to write and loads of songs throughout the 90s. And Naughty. She wrote things like Catch You by Sophia Ellis-Bextor, I never knew that. And she wrote, I think she wrote Can't Get You Out of My Head by Kylie. So she's obviously a very rich lady and obviously well deserved now. Mighty Oaks from Little Acorns, really. Now, De La Soul are back with I Know, and it's another classic. Possibly not quite as well known as Say No Go. Still from that all-time classic album, 3 Feet High and Rising. Good to have this on the Now album. Followed by Inner City, What You Gonna Do With My Loving? Not a lot, really. Fourth single, and it sounded like it really just churning them out at this point. Diminishing Returns. Followed up by, oh my god, Big Fun, Can't Shake the Feeling. Well, their version of Blame It on the Boogie was really, really poor, really hopeless, and actually really offensively bad. Can't Shake the Feeling, I vaguely remember. It was sort of Stock Aitken Waterman vaguely trying to go a bit more up to date with sort of silly falsetto voices, incredibly camp. They're probably nice guys, but I think no one would have even listened to Big Fun from like January 1990 onwards. They had about 3 or 6 months of vague fame, and that was it. Like Sonia. who's not made it onto any of these albums. Right, now here's a weird one. Cliff, and I Just Don't Have the Heart. Shall I stick it on? I don't know. No, I won't. But it's Cliff going Stock Aitken and Waterman, and it's not actually... Yeah, I'll stick it on, just for fun. It's not actually as bad as it sounds. It sounds like it could be the worst record of all time. Cliff Richard doing a Stock Aitken and Waterman dance song. But yeah, it's not bad. It's still camp. Really camp. But it's kind of... it's a good song, I suppose. It's a good melody. The lyrics are a bit... I don't know, they're not very Christian. They're about basically ghosting someone, I think. Just dumping them. But not even telling them. So, yeah. I don't know. It's not that bad, but it's a bit crass, really. This is followed by another one that is uber camp. Jimmy Somerville on his own now. Come on to Dear Adieu. It's another cover. Let's play a bit of it. It's another song in French, and a bit like that Cliff one, probably even better. Actually, very similar beat. This kind of beat was really big at this time. What will the neighbours think? Me playing all these songs. This is actually quite rocking. That's a great synth riff. Oh man, this is embarrassing. I really like this. Obviously, it's an old song. Who was it by? Brigitte Bardot or someone? The French certainly know how to write a melody. But it's, the top comments is one of the weirdest productions ever. Certainly, I'd rather hear Jimmy doing stuff like this than just umpteen sort of 70s disco songs. I quite like it, actually. Fair enough. All right, and we follow this with Drive On by Brother Beyond, who are really scraping a barrel now. I did like Brother Beyond, but their second album is just pretty meh. Drive On. It barely even made a top 40, to be honest. I think it made about 38, 39. I think it had a kind of eco theme, which I respect them for that. But I think maybe people didn't want to hear that sort of stuff from what they considered a boy band. Right, now here's an interesting one. Let's stick this on. This is Shakespeare's Sister and Your History. And this was Siobhan from Bananarama. She'd left them to do some utter shit after she left. And this was produced by Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics. And it kind of sounds a bit Eurythmics-y. It's the first one to introduce Siobhan and her friend Marcella, who does all the high bits. And it's a pretty quirky song. Yeah, I quite like it. Could be... I wouldn't call it dancey at all, but it's got a kind of a rolling groove. And, nice one to Siobhan for breaking out of a Bananarama thing. This is followed by another weird one. There's some very weird songs on this. Oh Well by Oh Well. Must have taken a lot of effort to think of that band name. And it's kind of a dance version of an old Fleetwood Mac song. He kind of raps it. It's not really rap. It's not even really house. It's kind of Euro dance. It was okay. Followed by Kisses on the Wind by Nina Cherry. She's back again with her third single. And it's pretty good. It's maybe not as good as the other two, but it's still got the attitude and the kind of like sassiness that you expect from Nene. This is followed by a great song. This is followed by a theme to a movie of the same name. It's Redhead Kingpin and it's Do the Right Thing, or if I'm really specific, Redhead Kingpin and the FBI. This is killer hip-hop, really. Pretty much used to know the words off the top of my head. Only thing I know by Redhead Kingpin, in terms of beats, it's a quite strange kind of beat. It's got like accordions and stuff in it. That was maybe a bit overdone, but kind of works. He looks really young in the video. I really don't know anything about him as a person, but great lyrics, socially conscious lyrics, possibly one of the best hip-hop tunes on the Now album today. I suppose we've had De La Soul. Anyway, nearly at the end now. In fact, we are. We've got one more song. Wishing on a Star by Fresh 4. Here's another real outlier of what would come ahead. And in fact, this is pretty good for a last song on the 80s nows. Yep, the very last song of the 80s to appear on a now. It's Wishing on a Star by Fresh 4. And it simultaneously looks back to the past and looks forward to the future, which is what all great songs do. It's another cover of a Rolls Royce song. They've had a few covers on these. Slightly different from Jimmy Nail, who did a cover of a Rolls Royce song on Now 5. Because we're in trip-hop territory now. In the Dick, Nene Cherry and Man-Child maybe first started digging. We've now really reached pure trip-hop almost. I'm pretty sure that the guys behind this went on to form Massive Attack, or some of them anyway. I'm pretty sure it's from Bristol, and obviously over the 90s Bristol would become an immensely influential city in terms of music. So what a great way to end this, actually. Really, really welcome to the 90s. And all in all, Now 16, really strong actually, a really good way to end the 80s. A really good bridge from the 80s into the 90s. Everything's got its place on here. There might be a couple of slightly naff ballads at the end of side 2. But the real standout songs here, Sowing Your Seeds of Love, absolutely. I think If Only I Could by Sydney Youngbloods, pretty classic. Name and Number, only because De La Soul used it. Queen, Breakthrough. Tina Turner, Simply the Best, absolutely. I think Right Here Waiting by Richard Marx. It's not for me, it's a bit drippy, but I think it's pretty popular. Street Tough, maybe a bit dated now, but I think its influence is undeniable. On Our Own, because of the Ghostbusters thing. Pump Up the Jam with its 160 million views. Hell yeah. I've ignored French Kiss by Louie Louie because it wasn't on the version I had, but it's a bloody good dance tune. And if it is on the version that you've got, I don't know if it includes the slowed down sexy bit, which is not very family friendly for a Now album, but classic house tune. It's just it wasn't on my version of it. I had to go out and get the 12-inch. I Know by De La Soul, Come On and Get My Love, they're both moderately famous. Do the Right Thing from the movie. This Wishing on a Star, I mean obviously the Rolls Royce one is famous. I'm not sure this version's that famous, but it's definitely influential. And it definitely introduces us nicely into the next era, the 90s. So thank you so much for watching these, if you have, and I hope you found them interesting. You know, on one level I think it's a bit kind of self-indulgent. The world's falling to pieces and I'm sitting here regressing to kind of 80s music. But I do think there's a social value to a lot of these songs, and like I say, when you see a song that's had 170 million views, that's meaningful. That goes outside just music or dance music, and that's genuinely about human history, and that's something that's affected an awful lot of people, and that's really what I'm interested in with these videos, is documenting the development of musical history. And obviously most of history is stuff that doesn't mean anything, but every now and then you get stuff that's really been groundbreaking or game changing. And looking at these first 16 Now albums, from Now 1 to Now 16, I think, you know, there's probably about 100 songs from a lot of them, maybe 5 or 6 songs each. Just trying to do the maths. Yeah, we could probably get a Spotify playlist, and maybe I might do it, of the real classics from these. So I reckon we're about 100 classic songs so far, and we're still not even 20% of the way through. So we could be getting up to 1,000 songs all in all that we'll pull out of all this. And I really hope you join me for Now 17 whenever I do it. Maybe even later today, we'll see. I was thinking of having a break and doing some other stuff, but I'm really enjoying these, and I just hope you are as well. So I'm wishing on a star for a better planet, and I hope you guys are too. Peace, love, unity and respect. Alright? See you in the third summer of love.